Hello friends and welcome to TCB for EAP. I'm your host Jessie Mallory and this is Echoes of Elvis. I started my channel TCB for EAP a few years ago with really good intentions of keeping up a video every week, and then my tribute career took off and I didn't have any time. Now I have found some balance and I am so happy to be back with this project. I am currently sitting in my office looking at a bunch of my Elvis memorabilia, signs and action figures and signed photographs and records and all kinds of fun stuff. So I am in my element as we do this podcast. Now there's so many things to consider when choosing how you want to do a podcast about Elvis. There's just so much to cover. The early years, the Army years, the movie years, the comeback, the Vegas years, the touring, the documentaries, the books, the magazines, the CDs, the new releases. There's so much to cover because his career was so vast. And everybody wants to know everything about Elvis. And while I've studied Elvis for most of my life, I am finding that I do not know everything about Elvis, but I am learning more every single day. So for this new first episode, I was like, what do we talk about exactly? Where do we start? And then I thought, why not start where it all began, really, with Vernon and Gladys? Let's talk about them. Let's talk about where they came from, who their parents were, and how they got together, and what was happening during that time that Gladys was pregnant. And while I won't go into a thorough family history, I will give a little backstory about Vernon, his parents, Gladys, her parents, and how their lives all kind of intertwined to bring Elvis into this world. But first, like all podcasters do, I have to remind you to maybe please subscribe to this channel, give it a like if you enjoy it, and let's see how we do. Let's see if we can build this. And also, if I get a name wrong, if I pronounce something wrong, if I misspeak, if I have a factoid that is just way out in left field, if you have a link of proof of how wrong I am, please share it, and then I will correct it in another video. Also, a roll call. Tell me where you're from. What part of the world are you from? I'm so interested to know where all the Elvis fans are from. So as Elvis might say, we're here to entertain you and to make you happy, so just enjoy yourselves and leave the driving to us. Hello everyone and welcome to TCB for EAP, Echoes of Elvis. I think I'm going to call this episode Roots of a Legend. I'm your host Jessie Mallory, and today we're rewinding to the early 1930s in Mississippi, to a small town where two young souls crossed paths and in that way, unknowingly, set the stage for a rock and roll revolution. Vernon Elvis Presley was born on April 10th, 1916, in Fulton, Mississippi, to Jesse and Minnie Mae Presley. Elvis's mother, Gladys Love Smith, was born on April 25th, 1912, in Pontotoc County. Now, if I am pronouncing that wrong, please tell me because I have no idea. She was born to parents Bob and Doll Smith. Now here we look at pictures of Vernon's parents and Gladys's parents. Now just take a look at this early picture of Elvis with his grandparents in the background. It's such a cool perspective of his family heritage. And of course, we should note that the Smiths, Bob and Doll, were actually first cousins. Before there was Elvis Presley, there was Vernon Presley and Gladys Smith, two teenagers living simple lives during the toughest of times, the Great Depression. Vernon Presley was just 17 years old, lanky, soft-spoken, and working odd jobs around Tupelo, Mississippi to help his family scrape by. Gladys Love Smith, on the other hand, was 21, spirited, warm, and full of a sharp sense of humor that made her a beloved figure in her church community. It was at church that Vernon and Gladys first met, but interestingly enough, they weren't immediately drawn to each other. In fact, Vernon initially dated Cletus, Gladys's younger sister. Meanwhile, Gladys spent time with Vester, Vernon's older brother. Yet, as life proves, the heart has its own plans. Over time, Vernon and Gladys found themselves more and more pulled towards each other. Perhaps it was their shared struggles, their love of music, or just that undeniable spark. But whatever the reason, they fell deeply in love. Now here's where it gets interesting. Vernon being underage at 17 and Gladys at 21 knew they might face legal hurdles to getting married. So on June 17, 1933, they eloped to Pontotoc County, Mississippi. And to make it happen, they fibbed on their marriage license. Vernon listed himself as 22 years old and Gladys as 19. It wasn't the most conventional start to a marriage, but then again, nothing about their lives would be conventional. Together, Vernon and Gladys built a life filled with hard work, resilience, and above all, an unbreakable bond. Just a few years later, their only child, Elvis Presley, was born, the boy who would change music forever. So let's travel back to the dusty streets of East Tupelo, Mississippi, to a tiny house built with a father's hands, long before the world would know the name Elvis Presley. It's the mid-1930s and America is in the grip of the Great Depression. Jobs are scarce, money even scarcer. And most families in East Tupelo, a rough-edged working-class neighborhood, are just trying to survive. Vernon Presley was no different. Still in his early 20s, Vernon had recently married his sweetheart Gladys. They had dreams, not of fame, not of riches, but of building a simple, stable life. And for Vernon, that dream meant one thing, a home of their own. With little formal education and no steady income, Vernon Presley decided to do what he could with what he had. Along with the help of his father, Jesse Presley, and a few local friends, Vernon set out to build a house, a shotgun shack, so called because, as the saying goes, you could fire a shotgun through the front door and the pellets would fly clean out the back. The lumber was bought on credit, and every board, every nail, every hour of sweat went into that little house at 306 Old Saltillo Road. It wasn't much. The floor sometimes sagged, the roof leaked when it rained, and the winter winds found every crack. But it was theirs. And on January 8, 1935, in that shotgun shack, Gladys Presley would give birth to 2 baby boys. Jesse Guerin was born first, stillborn, and the doctor said to Gladys, "You have another one in here." Now Gladys knew. She knew by her 5th month she was carrying twins. She was larger than normal, and she just knew it. She kept saying, "I feel another baby in there. I feel two babies kicking and moving around." So she knew. The world outside was cold, bitterly cold for Mississippi, and inside the Presley home, things weren't much warmer. Gladys Presley, just 22 years old, had gone through a difficult labor. In fact, she had been expecting twins. The first baby, Jesse Guerin Presley, was stillborn. Born dead early in the morning hours and buried the next day in an unmarked grave at the nearby Priceville Cemetery. But a few minutes later, Elvis Aaron Presley came into the world alive, crying, small but strong enough to survive. Gladys clutched him tightly. She would later say from the moment he was born, she felt a fierce, almost unnatural protectiveness over her boy, as if she knew he was destined for something special. The Presleys were heartbreakingly poor. Vernon, Elvis's father, barely made ends meet working odd jobs, farming, carpentry, anything he could find. Their shotgun shack was humble. 2 rooms, rough wood floors, no electricity, no running water. Electricity was hooked up, but they never used it because they couldn't afford it. Every dollar counted. Every meal was a small miracle. But despite the hardship, or maybe because of it, Elvis was raised in a house full of deep, devoted love. Gladys sang to him constantly, folk songs, gospel hymns, the rhythms of the Mississippi Delta. Her voice was filling the tiny rooms with warmth. It wasn't music as entertainment. It was music as survival. It was music as hope. As a baby, Elvis grew slowly but steadily. His parents, especially Gladys, doted on him. He was their miracle child, the one who lived. And in the years that followed, the bond between Elvis and his mother would become almost unbreakable, shaping his heart and later his art. So when we think about Elvis Presley, the dazzling superstar, the king of rock and roll, it's easy to forget that he came from the humblest of beginnings. A grieving mother, a struggling father, a tiny shack in Tupelo, and a baby boy who somehow, from the very start, would carry with him the weight of dreams too big for any one room to contain.